What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Coffee Pod. My name is Chisha Zed.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
There is no God in marriage. Coach Greg Adams slams the concept of marriage. So guys, because I'm not going to be reacting to this whole video, I just want to give some context real quick. Hafiz from the Roommates podcast and Coach Greg Adams, I'm sure you guys are familiar with both of these men, both very respectable men, came together to have a discussion. The topic was, is marriage worth it? That's what they're discussing here. That's the context. This is a point in the video that I decided to react to and give you guys my commentary and thoughts about this whole conversation. Let's get it.
To me, it's just not a yes or no question.
But so, Hafiz, what's your issue with this? Go ahead.
So it's always an interesting conversation because to me, like one of the things I'm obsessed with, and Dr. Peterson talks about this so well, is that the more your words are in line with the truth, the more powerful those words are. And I don't know where you are, if you believe in God or not. I don't know who kind of person you are, but like when you line your words up with God, like that's when, to me, your words have the most weight. Dr. Peterson, that's why I feel like he's so powerful. His words transcend humanity and it speaks on this divine level. And so to me, when you're giving advice, your advice has to be as in line with what God believes the world should run as possible. And so to me, the best advice benefits men and benefits women. That's the best advice. To your opinion, we had 70 years of advice only benefiting women and men suffering as because of it. That is a lie. That is wrong. And the opposite extreme is wrong as well. A world where it all benefits men and the women don't benefit, it's wrong. That's why it's about the balance. And so to me, I'm very curious about, I love her questions because it was like, it's not a gotcha question. It was a genuine, serious question. Shout out my guy, AMS. I love AMS. He did a video about, advice I would give to my daughter where he actually answers the questions directly. And so to me, I'm very interested in those questions because like when I would watch Kevin Samuels and God Rest the Dead, and it was so powerful because he would always push women to being married because he knew the beauty and the value and the protection and the safety like being a woman and being married. Nobody wants their daughter to be 41 years old, single, baby mama of 3. Nobody wants that for their daughter, especially if they want kids. So to me, I think the part of the conversation needs to be, is this information benefiting both human beings? When you're on Team Men, it only needs to benefit Team Men. If you're on Team Republican, it only needs to benefit Team Republican. If you're on Team America, it has to benefit all Americans. If you're on Team Human, it has to benefit both males and females. So that's why I loved her questions because I think the best, I can give my hardcore advice to benefit men, and I know without a shadow of a doubt.
Real quick, man, Hafiz speaks with passion. Right? You can see the passion in my man for sure. Let's keep watching.
Most hardcore advice that benefits men simultaneously benefits women.
One more thing I'll add to that, and I hope I don't mean to offend you. There's no God in marriage in the United States. So that's kind of misleading. And people will find that out if your marriage is destroyed. You go back to your pastor and you say, hey, my marriage is being destroyed. He has no power over that because it is a state agreement. So I will bring you back to make sure you understand, and I counsel men, there's no God in marriage.
Okay, let's start there. So this conversation actually started out all right. Now, I'm assuming you guys have seen the full-length interview and this full conversation, but if you haven't, go check it out yourself. It started out okay. Where Hafiz messed up is not bringing religion into the conversation, but bringing religion into the conversation and not being specific as to what exactly he's talking about, right? He said there, the best truth is the truth that aligns with God. As someone who does believe in God, that's a wrong way to approach this whole conversation. Why? Because you have people listening to this conversation who don't believe in God. And Christians do this. It's one of my problems with a lot of people who identify themselves as believers is they will enter a conversation assuming that everybody will hear, oh, God, okay, well, now that you mentioned God and brought God into the conversation, we all just agree and identify with what you're talking about, but you never said anything in specific. Here's my point. If you're going to bring God into a conversation about modern day marriage, you have to remember that marriages are failing everywhere, right? They're failing in the church. They're failing outside of the church. They're failing in every type of group that believes differently. Whether you believe in God or not, marriages today are failing. And that's just a fact. You can't just say the best advice is the advice that aligns with God, because what the hell does that mean? With all due respect, I respect both these content creators, but that doesn't mean anything to somebody who may not identify as Christian. What does that mean, aligns with God? What if I don't believe in God? What does that mean? If you're going to bring God into this type of a conversation, and I don't think you have to, in all honesty, but if you're going to bring God in, or your belief set into this type of conversation, you have to bring concrete points. What alignment are you talking about? Well, you might say, well, the type of marriage that is spoken about biblically is that of a man taking charge and leadership and a woman then submitting to that man. Okay, now we have something to work off of. Now we have a base. Now people can say, well, if you look at the majority of women today, are they these women that would qualify for that type of biblically based marriage? And the answer is no, right? If you just say whatever aligns with God is what's best, well, not everyone has Hafiiz's understanding of God. And I believe he lost probably most of the audience and probably a lot of believers, I assume, by just making that very broad statement. We need concrete solutions to these very real problems. Let's get back into it.
Been gone. Listen, it was an old idea. It's absolutely gone unless you live in an American South.
So
most people on the West Coast, many people in the East Midwest, there's no God in marriage. So
we break that down. What do you mean there's no God in marriage?
There's no God in marriage. So people get married. One of the things that they will do is they will seek counsel of the church. And then as such, the guys will give them guidance and it will be biblical principle. However, they will say we can't do anything until you sign this state-sponsored agreement with family law context. All right. They're not going to have a Bible in there. They're not going to have a Bible in that divorce court. The judge is not going to ask you, do you like God? And what about God in your marriage? There will be no context to that. And such, what is the overriding principle here?
Does he
your
have a
marriage
point there,
is state funded,
no,
not God funded.
He just made a random point that
I didn't make it random.
That was not a random point. That was a very real point. Listen, go to any church. Pastors who you're seeking marital guidance from have been married 3 or 4 times. They're failing at marriage too. Now, this is not to say marriage isn't a good thing, because I've said plenty of times, I will get married and I want to get married, but I want the government to stay out of my marriage, right? I'm not signing any contracts or documents. And people have asked me, well, Chisha, how are you going to do that? In all honesty, I'm still working that out. The main point here is he's right? I'm talking about Coach Greg Adams. If you're going to get married today, you're not just marrying that woman, you are marrying the government, the state, right? They are also involved in your marriage. In fact, they probably have more power than the actual woman who you're marrying. Marriage, the way it's carried out and done today, modern day marriage, you are giving authority through that contract that you sign to your state. And that's just the facts. And I also have to say, I do agree with the statement that there is no God in marriage, because these decisions that are being made in family court, they're not biblically based. That's not what this is based on. So far, Coach is making some good points. Nevertheless, let's keep watching and let's see how this turns out.
I told you that this will offend
first,
you,
and
it's now offended you.
What did I say? No, it didn't offend me. You're just wrong. Let me say what
I'm
I'm
wrong. Wait.
Let me finish.
I'm absolutely right.
Let me finish.
There's no God in the marriage in the United States.
Then you can talk. Let me finish.
No, hold for a second.
Let me finish.
Are you going to say there's no God in marriage in the United States?
Coach, finish your point. You're saying there's no God in marriage in the United States.
Correct.
Got it.
That was his point. So now I'm going to talk. So I made a point and I said, if your truth aligns with God, that truth is most powerful. That's what I said. If your truth aligns with God, meaning the word that you speak aligns with God, those words are the most powerful.
But what does that mean, Hafiz? You can't just say that. People need to know, what do you mean by God? There are different beliefs of who God is, how he wants marriages to be carried out. What do you believe? Because I may not agree with you once you reveal what that is. What is this truth that aligns with God that you speak of? That's what I think Hafiz was missing in this conversation, right? It was very kind of just abstract way of describing his opinion in this specific topic.
He made a point saying there is no God in marriage. So first, that's a semantic thing because God is everywhere. Whether God chooses to supervene in things or not, I will never be the person that says God is not here. I will never be the person that says God is not present here. Could we argue that is God blessing every American Western marriage? Of course not. Of course, God is not blessing every American, but God is definitely in my parents' marriage. So when you say there is absolute statements, there is no God in marriage. False. Correct. There is no God in some marriages. There is no God in most marriages in regards to by being there no God, meaning that God's not blessing it, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're saying that God is not blessing what's happening in most marriages, that is a true statement. But to say there is no God in marriages, period, that is a false statement because God is in my marriage and God is also in my parents' marriage. And I will continue to say, when it comes to even understanding the ideas of God, God gives human beings free will. It's a very simple concept. You can freely sin or you can freely obey. And God, like a good father, if you want to touch the stove, you can touch the stove. And so to me, I just think when people make statements like this, how do you expect people to feel? There is no God.
I don't expect anybody to feel. I want them to know. I want them to understand. We want them to know we can't feel anything.
I'm talking, and then you get the opportunity to talk. So to me, it's how do you expect people to react? And so,
oh my gosh, what is going on here? Hafiz lost. I think he lost the point that Coach Greg Adams was making there, which is basically, if I heard it correctly, it was if you're gonna sign away authority, right? When you sign that marriage contract and you're signing authority to your state, because when you divorce, everybody signs a prenup, whether you know it or not. If you don't create your own prenup and come to your own agreement and terms, then you are by default signing to the prenup of that state, right? And what I believe Coach Greg Adams is saying is that state and the government today is not basing their decisions on biblical principles or on God or Christianity. No. In fact, they've fought very hard to get God out of schools and other parts of government. And that's a fact.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
Right? Let's keep watching.
My biggest thing is that what I'm only communicating in regards to the marriages is that if you are a man, do your due diligence. Be able to see if she fits your life. Be able to see what is her family background. You can't protect yourself 100% from business failure, from friendship failure, from anything in life. But there is wisdom, there is godly principles that you can adhere to that can benefit you. But there's no absolute guarantees that everything in life will be successful. No one's teaching anybody that.
But and I'm not the most religious person here, so let me just give that disclaimer out there. You either,
right?
But
Yeah.
How I feel like God is all faith. It's all. I believe in this, and no matter what you tell me, you're not going to convince me otherwise, because this is what I believe. I'm sure that there's tons of marriages out there that they believe they go to church every Sunday, and then next thing you know, they get divorced, and God was in their marriage. So I'm just trying to establish what a godless marriage is, or God-filled marriage is, like how that genuinely curiosity, like how that works, because he's saying no. I think what Coach is basically saying is like, look, I don't care if you go to church every Sunday or not. At the end of the day, your marriage is between you, your significant other, and the
right
state.
here on earth,
forget about it.
Not in the clouds. And
that's what he's. That's essentially
Did
what
you
he's
ask
saying.
him a question, or
no,
I'm
just bringing this out to the
people,
panel.
What we tell people is that hope is not a strategy. All right, hope is not a strategy in anything. I hope my business goes well. I hope I don't get injured today. I hope I succeed today. We tell people real life principles, all right? We don't live in the clouds. We live here on earth, whether you believe this is heaven or hell. So I want you guys to understand you're dealing with earth here. This is a reality.
Are you a believer?
Absolutely not.
No. You're not a believer of God?
No.
Okay, but obviously, Hafiz, you are.
Yeah, and
Were
so
you ever a believer?
So how can
no?
you say that?
Here's the deal. What tends to happen is people are introduced to things based on someone else's biases. Okay, and those biases are introduced to children and so forth and so on. So yes, at some point, that was the only story I knew until I investigated on my own, decided as a man what principles to stand on, and then realized I don't live by hope. I don't live by cope. I live with what's real here. Okay. And let's talk about what's real instead of the mystique of this damn thing here. What's real is hope is not a strategy.
So hope is not a strategy is the last statement that was made there. And I gotta admit, I agree. Hope is not a strategy. Does that take away from my faith in God? No. But hope is definitely not just a strategy because, that ties in with the biblical principle that faith without works is dead. But I want to really entertain this whole conversation of God and marriage real quick for you guys. So this is for you guys who are believers. And if you don't believe in God, you're going to benefit from this too. Here's my problem with this whole perspective of the lack of God in people's lives is the reason why marriages aren't working. Is while that may sound good, right, to the ears, and this is coming from somebody who does believe in God, it's the wrong approach to this problem. Why? Because both believers and non-believers are failing at marriage. Because listen, it's easy to tell a man if you just focus on God, then everything will work out. The problem is there are multiple factors in this problem situation. There are multiple factors. There's the free will and free choice of the woman. She can at any time decide to leave that marriage. Doesn't matter how much you pray to God. If that woman decides to rebel against her husband, her family, if she decides to rebel against God's word, those core biblical principles of a man and a woman creating a family, the man being the head, if she decides to rebel, God doesn't stop free will. She can still leave. Not only that, the state incentivizes her to leave. And so there are multiple things that have to be addressed and also considered. The mindset of the man, the mindset of the woman in which you are entering that contract with, and also what's written on that contract. Listen, I'm not a believer that marriage only works for Christians or people who only believe in Jesus. I'm a believer that marriage works for people who come together and are willing to work with each other to make marriage work. If you believe in the Bible, you know that God is not a respecter of persons, meaning he does not favor any one person. God blesses whoever is following the principles and the laws of life. That's how I look at this thing. This is why not only Christian people succeed at businesses. This is why not only Christian people can wake up and smile and have good relationships and families. This goes way beyond Christianity. There's a real problem today within the way marriage is carried out. The mindset of the people and the laws of the land. And if you truly believe that God is good and wants the best for every man, then you have to believe that he will bless every marriage that comes together with good intention. Man bringing to the table what he knows the woman needs, being accountable for his responsibilities, and the woman vice versa, doing the same, coming to the table, bringing what a man wants today. Most modern women aren't doing that, right? They don't think they have to bring anything of value to that man to the table. But here's the problem. You can have a man coming to a relationship and marriage with good intentions and a woman who's coming to do her best with good intentions. But you can have a contract by a state, by a government that doesn't have good intentions for you as a man. Marriage contracts today are set up for you as the man to get the worst deal out of this situation. It's an obvious red flag, should be avoided. It's deceitful. Marriage today is deceitful. The way it's set up today, modern marriage, does not benefit men. And that's just the plain truth. Let's keep watching.
I love it. Can I address it?
Yeah,
real
go
quick?
ahead.
Yeah. So first and foremost, like I said, it's very interesting. I've always told you got to hear someone's background, and then you know where they lean. That's where you know where their advice gears towards. So it's such a even when I talk about God, like the idea of God in his brain is not the idea I'm talking about. It's this interesting verse in the Bible. I won't get too lost in the sauce in the book of Isaiah where God is somebody's like farming, and he's talking about the intricacies of farming. And he says, even that wisdom comes from God. God is not the God of get married happily ever after. That's foolishness. God gives you wisdom. What is the wisdom? Actually do premarital counseling. What is the wisdom? Actually be able to decide, okay, if things don't work out, what are we going to do? Where are the kids going to go? What's the money going to go? Things going to work out. Who's going to be the primary breadwinner? Who's not? God gives you the wisdom to be intelligent, to be able to navigate. Hope is not a strategy. 100% right. Hope is not a strategy. But God's message is not just simply blind hope. It's wisdom. Literally, Jesus said, be as wise as a serpent, but as innocent as a dove.
What's God's message, Hafiz? Practical application.
You have to understand how to, what does a serpent do? He's able to navigate on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
So 100% right. No one's teaching hope as a strategy. That's a straw man argument. True godly wisdom is relevant. True godly wisdom is what made Adam a millionaire. True godly wisdom is what made Patrick Bet David build this amazing company. It's actual practical step-by-step guidance that benefits people's lives. So no one's talking about hope being a strategy. Simply pray to God and your marriage is going to work out. That's foolishness. What did I say? Naivete, nihilism, realism is in the middle. No one's saying being naive. So when I'm talking about godliness in marriage, those are certain principles and wisdoms. Is it going to be that if you follow God, you'll never get a divorce? No. There's nothing in life where nothing bad is going to happen. You can do everything the right way and the wrong thing can still happen. But does that mean you should do things the wrong way? Absolutely not. And so my biggest thing is that we need to give men as much practical wisdom, and women as well, give them as much practical wisdom that can build a healthy, successful marriage. When he talks about don't get married without leverage, I guarantee if he expounds upon leverage, those are all godly principles. Those are all biblical principles that what he's going to describe in what he defines as leverage, being masculine, you know what I mean, protecting your assets, all the things he would describe as leverage, that is godly wisdom. He may not view it as godly because his view of God is just some old white man in the clouds telling you to simply just do whatever you want, right? But to me, true godly wisdom is relevant. It's practical. It improves lives because like Jordan Peterson said, it's in line with the truth. And if you're in line with the truth, they can give you the best case scenario. Not a perfect life, but the best life.
All right, so that's about it, guys. So it's very obvious that Hafiz wants more content creators within the male space to push men to get married, which to me just is not a good idea. I've said plenty of times that I don't think that decision needs to be made by myself, right? Do I believe in marriage as an institution? Do I think it's the best situation to raise up kids? Yes, but I don't expect most men to see the value in marriage today because the truth is just the truth. The truth is most marriages today will fail. And most women today do not respect the average man. You'd have a better chance of getting married today if you were a top earner, right? I know Hafiz has this whole like 1% man. And in this same exact interview, he says, you know, I don't care about money. I didn't sign a prenup. I was like, what? Right? That's some crazy coffee.
This coffee smells like shit.
Because if you're going to sign a contract, I would at least assume that you would sign a prenup. But he says, no, I don't care about money. I can make money again. Well, that's not the average guy. And not only that, not only can the average guy just not make $1 million, I'm not saying he's worth that much. Not only can the average guy just not make money like that based on their connections or, you know, their natural love for entrepreneurship, but women already look at the average man like they're doing them a favor to enter a marriage with them. And that's that woman's mindset before she enters one of the most difficult things we accomplish as human beings, which I believe marriage is definitely one of those things. Especially today, it's nearly impossible. Things have to change. And the focus should really be first, like I've said, creating awareness and making sure men are as informed as possible. People might say, oh, it sounds negative. Okay, you don't have to watch me every day. You don't have to watch other men who remind you about the dangers of marriage every single day. This is a niche that Coach Greg Adams focuses on. I know they got into that conversation. You can watch other stuff, but I hope you know the truth. I hope you're staying aware. I hope you're drinking that coffee, but Hafiz doesn't think that's the route to go.
Put that coffee down.
I disagree. I think the first step is awareness. And after you are aware as a man, it is now up to you to decide how you want to move forward. I am not going to encourage men and tell them what to do. I'm not going to tell men to get married. I'm not going to tell them not to get married. You are a man. You decide how you want to move forward after you've seen the current situation, the current state of modern marriage. We're all in this together. We're all trying to figure this thing out. And then you might ask, well, can change ever come? Can things get better as far as marriage goes? It could happen. Laws can be changed. Those things can happen. But we don't know what the future looks like for marriage. Will marriage exist years down the line? We don't know, right? Polyamory is becoming a new popular thing. The truth is, I don't know what the future looks like when it comes to marriage. But I do know that more likely than not, if you pursue a marriage today and you are oblivious and unaware, then you are setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for destruction. And it's not a pretty thing to see a man who's gone through a marriage that has completely ruined him, separated him from his family, and made him a slave to the system. Listen, guys, as always, I'm curious to know what you guys thought of this whole video. Leave your comment down below. Listen, I appreciate you for checking out yet another episode of The Coffee Pod. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.